But surely no one could possibly want to desecrate a monument dedicated to ordinary, hard-working folk who sacrificed their lives so you and I know the freedoms that we have today. Well, one MP who feels especially strongly about this is Jonathan Gullis. He is the MP for Stoke-on-Trent North. The former teacher spoke out in Parliament this week expressing his disgust with a powerful tribute to the glorious dead. He's asking for heavier sentences given to those who vandalise memorials. So let's just have a little listen to what Gullis had to say in the House today, and then we'll speak to him in just a moment.
Those who vandalise and abuse these monuments do not have the capacity to comprehend the strength, the courage and the bravery it must have taken for, in this case, teenage boys to overcome the terror of midnight missions across occupied Europe in a tin can thousands of feet in the sky. Memorials stand in great, solemn, eternal remembrance of the glorious dead. We can't bring back those lives. We can't erase the grief of families and communities. The very least we can do is make sure that memorials are adequately protected.
And Jonathan Gullis joins me now. So, Jonathan, tell me about exactly what this proposal would mean in terms of the sentence changes.
Well, hi, Dan. It's lovely to talk to you as always. In terms of the proposal, what we're looking to do is at the moment, under the Criminal Damage Act of 1971, if there is no damage above the value of £5,000, then it has to stay in the magistrate's court. What we want to do is scrap that £5,000 threshold and allow the judges to use their discretion, because obviously the emotional impact of damaging a war memorial outweighs the cost, and therefore I want judges to ideally then transfer this to the Crown Court. In the Bomber Command Memorial in Green Park, which has been desecrated 4 times since Her Majesty opened it. In 2013, one individual desecrated it with the Fusilier Lee Rigby's name and only got 12 weeks imprisonment. I mean, that is a joke.
So how long would you like to see people who desecrate war memorials be locked up for?
So the bill has put a limit as a maximum sentence of 10 years and has changed the fine to being an unlimited fine, again, for the judges to determine how long they think. I'm a proud member of the Conservative Party who believes in law and order, and I love listening to your callers earlier who are backing our Prime Minister, who are backing our agenda to get tougher on those who break the law. And this is all designed to ensure that people understand you can protest, but remember, those men and women gave their lives so you could do that.
No, absolutely. And I think the problem that we've seen, Jonathan, over the past few weeks is that, yes, of course, people have a right to protest, and that is also part of the fabric of our society. But some of these protesters have been allowed to willfully damage property, talking about the statues, of course, these memorials, and the police have allowed them to get away with it. So there is a real breakdown, I think, in society, and it's only adding to the culture war, the lack of law and order.
Well, look, I think I share with Priti Patel the disgust at Avon and Somerset Police just standing aside, and allowing. Because at the end of the day, once you make the excuse for one crime, where does it end? And to see our great hero, Churchill, have to be boarded up in that way. My grandfather, if he was alive, would be sick to his stomach. So I think it's utterly repulsive that we live in a society that somehow means that this cancel culture, as you've called it rightly before, is becoming so obsessed. I mean, to the fact on Twitter, you see people saying we need to cancel Martin Luther King and because he was pro-Israeli. I mean, when is it going to end?
I know. Well, I think that every day now, every day I wake up and I see someone else who's had a point misconstrued. So this morning it was the Daily Telegraph columnist Alison Pearson, and the whole liberal left wants them cancelled. I think it's a despicable way to live. Actually, I really do. And I think there is a real divide, Jonathan, and that's why I think this bill is so important. There's been a real divide between what the media have been feeding the public over these protests and actually what most ordinary folk think. I think everyone believes there's a right to protest and everyone believes in a right to peaceful protest, but none of us want to see this type of destruction again.
Well, do you know what, Dan? When I finished my speech, I came back and saw on Twitter that a Daily Mirror journalist was, sniping away, moaning about the fact that all I'm doing is recreating the wheel and it's not such a big deal. And I just thought, how out of touch is the liberal and left elite media with the people of Stoke-on-Trent. If you go, what I asked them to do is go look at my Facebook page and understand the feeling. 16,000 views that speech has had so far. Hundreds of people are liking it. I'm going on a bike ride with my veterans in Stoke-on-Trent to celebrate Armed Forces Day around the Kidsgrove area on Saturday. Yeah, I can't wait for that to join in with those men and women who have given so much. So I just think, thank God we've got people like you, really, Jonathan, calling out what's going on.
The problem is with these people is none of them have been to Stoke-on-Trent, and I actually say that seriously. And as someone whose family comes from South Shields, I just think it's absolutely despicable how the London Liberal elite now are so out of touch with the rest of the country. But the problem is, and it is a huge problem, is that they are dominated and obsessed by this echo chamber of Twitter. And actually, that's one of the reasons why I signed up to Parler this week, which is a new social media service. I'm going to talk about it more, which is just an alternative to Twitter, because Twitter is just full of hate mobs and cancel culture. And I think it's important, very important, that decision makers like you, and thankfully you don't, but probably some other people do, think that Twitter represents the country, because it's so far from representing the country.
Well, Dan, you've mentioned it before. Remember Channel 4 when they did the election night result and the groan from the audience? If you'd listened, if we'd watched Twitter, if Twitter was the electorate, Jeremy Corbyn would have a 400-seat majority.
Yeah.
I just think it was Twitter is becoming a cesspit for me. Something that I'm probably thinking of just leaving as well, because with the greatest respect, all I'm doing is getting grief from people who have never been to Stoke-on-Trent. I see people from the left in the Labour Party who say Keir Starmer's somehow trying to gain 9 more votes off racists in Stoke. That sneering attitude to the people I proudly represent. A multicultural society of people from British background, but also British Pakistanis, Kashmiris, who I proudly stand and go beside. They just have no clue. And what they need to do is get out of London, get some fresh air in Stoke-on-Trent, go and talk to some people and realise what ordinary working class, hard-working folk are about in this country, which is heritage, country and family.
And stop refreshing their Twitter feed. I couldn't agree more. Very powerful message from Jonathan Gullis, the Conservative MP for Stoke-on-Trent North. What do you think? 03444991000. Time for a quick call before the news. Jim is in Newcastle. Jim, what do you want to say?
I was just giving that lad a round of applause, because
he's speaking sense, isn't he, Jonathan Gullis?
He's absolutely nailed it. Look, okay, I supported the Labour Party all my life up until 1997. But it's gone. And the Conservatives need to become Conservatives again, because working people are conservative by nature. And we voted them in. And what we want is law and order, the right to property. But if they keep going down the appeasement route, there'll be another party rise. There's got to be. Because Labour are finished, and we've got to have a healthy opposition to this appeasement.
So do you mean a party will rise out of the ashes of Labour, or an alternative to the Tories? Where do you think the party will come from?
Well, the Labour Party rose out of the working classes. And I believe the new party will rise out of the working classes, because the working classes have went towards the Conservatives in droves. And if they don't deliver, then there'll be something come out of it.
Yeah, so the onus is on Boris Johnson, which is why his MPs need to support him.
Oh, definitely. But how can I put it? Both parties, since I'd say the 80s, have been full of, this is a term I put it, it was a term my father gave us, was screaming liberals. And liberalism it traps people, because it's liberalism on their terms. And what they need to understand is what people want and need. And what we want is decent jobs, decent housing, and food in the plate.